Welcome back to the CV Brothers podcast. In our last video, we gave a brief history lesson about comic books and then started rewriting/creating the Pulphero cinematic universe. We then reviewed The Legend of Zorro, taking place in the 1840s, The Shadow in the 1920s, and Indiana Jones in the 1930s, setting up the archetypes, a feel for the heroes of this world. Most importantly, we were introduced to Lamont Cranston, the Shadow. His importance in this world is about to become much clearer. We set down the groundwork for the pulp fiction heroes of this world and the world itself. Some of what we covered, like that of Zorro, which was setting up for a future piece, and others was simply introducing the characters to everyone else. I know that some of these characters are very niche, and most people have not seen the cult classic films or comics. If you have not seen these films, I highly encourage you to watch them. Most of Phase 1 involves bringing these different characters and settings together into one collective whole. As we continue, their stories and the team-ups will continue. We are excited to bring you the next chapter in this story. I hope you like the video. If you do, leave a comment. If you don't, leave a comment. Now let's talk about part 2 of phase 1 of the Pulphero cinematic universe. Docsavage was a pulp hero in comic books, novels, radio plays. He had several film adaptations, the most famous of which being 1975's Docsavage and the Man of Bronze, starring Ron Ely. Docsavage, the Man of Bronze, 1936. After Dr. Clark Savage, or Doc Savage, found out his father had been murdered, he set out to find the murderer with the help of his brain trust, his group of brilliant friends, Monk, Ham, Rennie, Long Tom, and John. They followed the clues and were eventually led to Hidalgo, Mexico. There they found that Doc's father had previously found a lost tribe of Mayans and had been working to protect them from the outside world and from those who would use the resources for nefarious purposes. Unbeknownst to them, Doc's nemesis, Captain C's, had followed them. He had murdered Doc's father, trying to find this lost tribe. He planned to use the resources to further his plans and strengthen his goals. Doc Savage and Captain C's battled for control over the people and over the death of Savage's father. In the fight, Doc won and Captain C's was pushed into molten lava. Doc Savage then vowed to the tribe that he would continue his father's work to protect them and help them in any way that he could. Having found his father's killer and the secrets of his legacy, Doc Savage and his brain trust returned to New York to their headquarters to start their next adventure. Post-credit scene. At the home and headquarters of Doc Savage, two figures approach the door and knock. After they are greeted by Ham, they ask if they could speak to the doctor about a mutual partnership for them. The Rocketeer was created by Dave Stevens in the 1980s as a homage to the pulp heroes of the 1930s through the 1940s. Remember that golden era and very end of the platinum era comic book heroes. It was then made into a film in 1991 starring Billy Campbell and Jennifer Connelly, changing the settings and the characters just a little bit to make it fit in the movie, but a very fun adventure. The Rocketeer, 1938. Cliff Secourt was a struggling race pilot, and his best friend, PV, accidentally stumbled upon a experimental jetpack. As their monoplane had been destroyed, they decided that this could be a miracle that they were wishing for. After some testing, they learned how to use it They saw it as a way to change their fortune, but before they could do anything, Cliff used the rocket to save another pilot from a plane crash. This earned him the name the Rocketeer. However, this attention caught the eye of the people who had originally stolen the jetpack, gangsters who were working with the mob boss Eddie Valentine. Valentine was actually hired by the film star Neville Sinclair to steal the rocket. Sinclair overheard Cliff telling his girlfriend, Jenny, about the jetpack. Neville Sinclair was a Hollywood heartthrob and prominent actor through many movies. Jenny was a new actress trying to jump onto the scene and who wholeheartedly loved everything Sinclair had been in. Sinclair saw this and used it to try to get close to Jenny and therefore the jetpack. But it backfired on him because Jenny knew all of his tricks. He then resorted to kidnapping after his seduction didn't work. It was at his home that Jenny then found out that Sinclair was actually a Nazi spy. Cliff and Peavy got help from the FBI and the maker of the rocket, Howard Hughes, to figure out what was actually happening in this whole world around them. Cliff set up a meeting with Sinclair to save Jenny and to trap the spy. When he showed up, he revealed to Valentine Sinclair's true colors as a Nazi spy. Valentine and his mobsters joined forces with the FBI to stop the Nazis. Cliff gave up the rocket to save Jenny, but Sinclair and the Nazis, Luxembourg, blew up when they activated a faulty switch on the rocket. To thank Cliff, Hughes donated a new plane for him to race in. Jenny then revealed that she had stolen the schematics Sinclair had stolen originally and gave them to PV, allowing him to build another rocket. Post-credit scene. Two men sat there reading the newspaper about the Rocketeer's appearance and the crash of the Luxembourg ship. Both commented about how the Age of Heroes was coming, and this champion out in Hollywood seemed to be just who they were looking for. The Phantom was originally created in 1936 and has had several versions over the years in comic books, in TV, and also in movies. In 1996, there was the movie The Phantom that came out, starring Billy Zane, who made quite a mark as a character. The Phantom, 1938. In the early 16th century, a young boy helplessly witnessed his father being killed by Kabai Seng, the ruthless pirate leader of the Sang Brotherhood, who had attacked their ship. The boy jumped overboard and eventually washed ashore on the island of Bengala. The local tribesmen of the island found him and took him back to their village. They gave him the skull ring as he swore to protect the island in the village itself, devoting his life to destruction of piracy, greed, cruelty, and injustice. As an adult, he adopted the identity of the Phantom. In 1938, Kit Walter, the 21st Phantom, stumbled onto a group looking for the skull Tagunda. The skulls were said to give the wielder unlimited power. As one of the skulls on the island was then taken by this group, Kit left the island of Bengala to track down the individuals behind the plot as a whole, but also to retrieve the skulls. He tracked them down to a man named Quill back in New York. Once back in the city, Kit enlisted the help of Diana, a college fling from many years ago, and he also found out she was dating a man named Xander Drax, a powerful but shady businessman. Kit and Diana uncovered that Quill was actually working for Drax. Drax was the one who wanted the power, and Quill wanted simply money and to kill the Phantom once and for all, having encountered and killed him before. In actuality, he had killed Kit's father, the previous Phantom. Diana was kidnapped after Drax found the second skull and the first and second skull together revealed the location of the third skull on an island in the Indian Ocean. Drax and his forces traveled to the Devil's Vortex and there met a band of pirates who had been protecting the last skull. The pirates, what was left of the Sang Brotherhood, told Drax that he needed the foreskull to Gunda, and without it they could not truly wield the power. The Phantom appeared and battled the pirate leader and Drax, now wielding all three skulls. The Phantom's ring, the Skull Ring, was revealed to be the fourth skull. Together, Kit and Diana managed to defeat the pirates, Drax, and most of his men. The island was destroyed, but Quill managed to escape. After they returned the skulls to Bengala, Diana revealed she knew his secret identity but promised to keep it. Kit removed his mask and told her he could only disclose his secret to one person, the woman he intended to marry. Diana told him she needed to take care of a few things in New York first and left. Kit smiled, knowing that this was not the last time the two would encounter each other. Post-credit scene. A shadowy figure approaches Diana upon her return. The figure asks her help to find the Phantom. Diana looked at the man confused and asked how he knew about the Phantom, to which he told her that the Phantom was needed in a larger fight. As a little aside to this interconnected universe, when I was creating it, I wanted to introduce a character that was a vampire hunter. This felt very in sync with the 1930s feel as a perfect place for a vampire hunter saving people in dark alleys of a big city. However, I could not find a character that seemed to fit. Either they were set too far before or too far after, or too much of a superhero. Therefore, I took my knowledge of vampires and vampire hunters and created a character. I tried to think about what would work both out as a good character for the time, but also something that wouldn't be too typical. I wanted to create someone who could grow as a character. The different ideas amalgamated into The Hunter. The Hunter, 1938. Lucy Hunter was a high school student in Aurora, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. All she worried about was being a girl and hanging out with her friends. One day, she and her friends noticed how some of the students and some of their friends started to disappear. The cops seemed to have no answers or any idea what could have happened. They mostly blamed it as people running away or moving. Since the Depression had recently ended, moving around was seen as common. Lucy and her friends were not satisfied with these answers and began their own search. In this search, they stumbled upon a vampire attack. They were shocked, and some of her friends were killed before her dad appeared and saved them. He got the kids to safety and got them home, and then took Lucy home. He explained their family history and how they were connected to the old line of Van Helsings, and how he had retired from monster hunting when he had kids. After a night of thinking about it, Lucy decided she wanted to train to help her dad kill vampires and avenge her friends. He agreed, and her training began. They started tracking down the different vampire family trees or lines and seeing how many of them could have stayed alive in Chicago. Amid the search, Lucy's father got hurt, and she was left to hunt the vampires by herself. At the same time, her friends started to pull back from her, not wanting to see what was happening around them, finding it easier to doubt the whole thing had ever happened rather than face the truth. This caused her to lose several friends. Lucy eventually uncovered a plot to attack the high school students during prom and sire or create new vampires and feed on the rest. The vampires planned to return to their full strength like they were before the hunters, like Lucy's dad, had destroyed them and hunted them almost to extinction. Lucy suited up and headed to prom to face the vampires head-on, at the protest of her father and mother. It was a hard battle, but eventually Lucy defeated the vampires and saved the people. but she did burn down part of the school in the process. Post-credit scene. Lucy and her father sat on their front porch talking and licking their wounds a few days after the battle at the prom. This is when two figures walked up and greeted them, noting they believed what the young girl was actually fighting and that they were in the area, wanting to talk about a future opportunity. The two asked if they could talk with the two hunters, to which Lucy's father agreed.